So welcome to my video about all my red and pink watercolor tubes. We are starting again with the colors I want to use up first, and with the not light fast versions, that are these three. I have two from the Indian brand Kukyo Camlin. They are artist grade watercolors. We have here the vermilion hue. It's a mixture between PR8 and PR4. It's a very beautiful color, but sadly it is absolutely not light fast. It will vanish completely. Same goes for the Crimson Lake. Very beautiful color, but it will be vanishing completely. It's PR8 and PR57 column 1. The information about the pigments, because my tubes are very old, couldn't be found on the tubes. As far as I know, on the newer tubes, they have the information printed on, but I have the information from their website. I wouldn't order them again, not because they are not good, but just because of customs and shipping. It is not very cheap, but I know that the watercolors are super cheap in India. So if you are living in India, or if you are visiting India, that is a great opportunity or if you know someone who goes there for Hollywood or visiting friends or family, if they bring you some of the tubes, they are very cheap there. And also they are big tubes, 20 ml. Not all of their colors are not light fast. They have a lot of light fast pigments as well. So it is a good way to get to very cheap but very good watercolors. Yeah, but like I said, ordering them adds a lot of costs to it, and then it is, at least for me personally, I say it is not so cheap anymore, and then I can buy cheaper brands here from shops in Germany. So that's the reason why I wouldn't buy them again like that, only when I have someone visiting India or if I go there myself. Yeah, but very beautiful colors, and the quality when you are painting from the brand is very good. Then I have the Rose Madder from Holbein. That's a Japanese brand, and that is PR83, also known as alizarin crimson. Very beautiful, dark, cool red, but sadly absolutely not light fast at all. It will be vanishing completely when you are using it anyway diluted. So yeah, that's the reason why they are in my not light fast box. Then I have in my more light fast or light fast box, I have these for using up first. The first one, which you can see, is nearly used up. I can't squeeze any more out, but you can. I will show this in the end with one of my pink tubes. You can cut it open, and I will do a separate video about how to cut your tube open and how to get the remaining paint out the easiest way. I will do a separate video for that. This is quinacridone red from Winsor Newton Professional. They use the PR209. Quinacridone red has two pigments, the PR209, like they used here, and the PR207. Some brands offer the 207 version, and some brands offers the 209 versions. So depending on the brand. I absolutely love quinacridone reds because it is one of very few completely transparent reds. It's a very vibrant red, and like a very glowing cherry red. It is completely light fast, so that's also nice. And yeah, I absolutely love to use it as a lip color. If you dilute it a bit, it looks very like a natural lip rose or lip red. And what I don't like when using it always looks like your character or the person you are drawing has some lipstick on it. And with these you can get them more natural looking lip color. That's why I really love that. Very similar color to this is the Scarlet Lake from Winsor Newton Professional. That's the pigment PR 188. That's the other pigment which is from the Optica, very similar but more a lighter version. Completely transparent red. The red shade is also very similar. So this is a good alternative as well. I know that Schminke also offers this pigment because I have it. We will see it later. Then the Rose Madder from Magello Mission Gold. That's a PR 176. I have looked it up when I done the German version of the video, and it's a benzimidazolone pigment, and it has a 2 to 3 in light fastness, so it's good to medium. So better be careful with it. Maybe I switch it to the not so light fast box. Yeah, very beautiful darker red tone. Most of my smaller tubes, this is from a set. The expectations are the Winsor Newton ones that are ones I bought open stock when I started out with tubes, and I thought I will buy smaller ones so that I can buy more. Then I have the Vermilion from Shinhan PWC. That's a Korean brand. Of course, it is not a genuine vermilion, because the genuine vermilion is not only not light fast, but the main problem why it isn't used today anymore in commercial produced watercolors, only if you buy a very specialized one, is that it contains quicksilver, so it is highly toxic, and that is the reason why you normally don't use it anymore. So most brands don't bother with a vermilion hue, they just call it vermilion. And the pigments which are used most for their vermilion dupes is either a cadmium red or a pyrrole red. That's PR 108 or a PR 255. That are in, I would say, 98% the pigments a brand uses. And we have here PR 108 with a little bit of PO20, so it's a cadmium red, cadmium orange mix, very light fast. And I also have a cadmium red deep, which is a PR 108. The vermilions or light cadmium reds or the pyrrole red, those are the ones I use very watered down as a first shadow layer in my skin coloration. And yeah, so if you don't like to use cadmiums, the pyrrole red would be a perfect alternative, because cadmium red light hues or cadmium red hues are mostly also done with the PR 255. So that's normally the pigment they use for the hues. So then my red watercolor box. Yeah, like always, I will put them all here, and then I will do a little bit of ordering them, and then I'll be back in a second. So now I have sorted it a little bit. We have White Nights, Rembrandt, Shinhan PWC, Renaissance, Rosa Gallery, Winsor Newton Professional, Van Gogh, Holbein, Supervision, Phoenix, Sennelier, Core, Jello Mission Gold, Daniel Smith, and Schminke Horada. So I'm starting with the White Nights ones, and I have Venice Purple. Normally Venice reds or Venetian reds are more red iron oxide, very earthy red, but this Venice Purple here is made with a PR 179, which is a Perylene Maroon, very light fast pigment. That's a very new tube, as you can see. I haven't used it so far. Then I have the Ruby, which is a old tube. It is made with a PR 170, which is not light fast. I am not sure if they still use this, because I know that in the Carmine they have switched the PR 170 for a PV19. I have a new tube of the Carmine with the PV19, and I have an old pan which still have the PR 170, but this is not light fast, so that it will vanish completely when exposed to light, so can't really recommend that version at least. Then the Meadow Lake Red Light. This is made from a PR 187, which I think I have looked it up when I done the German version, and I think it was around 2 with the light fastness, so a good, if I'm not mistaken. Then Cadmium Red Light, PR 108. You will see I have a lot of cadmium reds in my collection. Like I said, it is what I use a lot for my skin coloration, so one of the colors I use very, very much. It's also the reason why I have a cadmium red deep from Rembrandt. Also, cadmium red is a pigment which can give you a very light red version, like a fire engine, firefighter engine car red, to darker reds, to reds that are so dark that it looks nearly purplish. It is very, very versatile. It is a pigment that granulates very, very slightly normally, but there are versions where it granulates very, very strongly. We will come later to it. So yeah, Rembrandt company is Royal Talents from the Netherlands. At least here in Germany, those are very, very affordable. They also have these big 20 ml tubes, so the price is here, I think it is around €9 for Series 1. So yeah, of course cadmiums are more expensive. That is Series 3. Cadmium pigments are expensive, so they are a little bit more expensive. Then I have here Scarlet Lake. It is a PR 48, PR 9 mixture. They give it 2 stars. I would only give it 1 star. Most of the Shinhan colors I have bought many, many years ago when I had absolutely no clue about pigments. Those are absolutely non-light fast pigments. I wouldn't buy that again. It is a very beautiful color, but like I said, not light fast, and there are definitely, to most not light fast pigments, you will have alternative which are very good in light fastness. So yeah, Permanent Red is a PR 209, so that's a quinacridone red. Love this one, very light fast. Then we have Carmine, which is PR 83. They say it has 3 stars. That is totally incorrect. The PR 83 is the alizarin crimson pigment, and it is absolutely not light fast. It has the lowest light fastness rating you can get. It will vanish completely. It is a stunningly dark, cool red color, and I love it very, very much. But it is definitely not light fast, so that rating is not correct. Then I have there alizarin crimson. I don't know why they're not called this one alizarin crimson, because this is at least the alizarin crimson pigment. Here we have a PR 23. It is also not light fast, so the 3 stars are definitely not correct. But yeah, I don't understand the naming. Why do you say the the alizarin crimson pigment, call it something different, and then use a different pigment for your alizarin crimson? That's just confusing for people, I think, and that's something I personally don't like so much. Okay, Van Gogh is the student grade range from Royal Talents, but there are very, very good and very affordable colors. In Germany, the 10 milliliter tubes cost €3, so it is super cheap, very affordable, and 10 milliliter goes really a long way. So you can really do a lot of many years use a color with 10 milliliters. I would say that Van Gogh for me personally is with the Schminke Academy. Definitely number 1 in student grade paints. That's also why I have a lot of Van Gogh, because I really like them. I have here the Meadow Lake Deep. That's PR 264. I'm not quite sure if it's a Perylene or a Pyrrole at the moment, but it is a very light fast pigment, so that's a darker, coolish red. And then we have the Permanent Red Deep, which is more a lighter, warmer red. It's a PR 149. Then I have 2 colors from Holbein, which did also come in the set. With einmal Crimson Lake, which is PR 177, PR 122. That's a Quin Pink and a Quin Rose PV19. Sadly, the PR 177 is not light fast at all in watercolor. They rate it with a 3-star best light fastness rating. That is definitely not correct. The problem here is the PR 177 is always rated best in light fastness. Doesn't matter the brand. Daniel Smith, for example, does it as well. But it is in watercolor an absolutely not light fast pigment, which will in diluted versions completely vanish over time. The reason why sometimes there is such a mislabeling with the light fastness is the big problem that most times when light fastness is tested, they use oil colors. And oil colors is opaque medium. You don't water it down, so you always use it in mess tone. You use a white to lighten the color, but the opaqueness doesn't change. And we have a very light fast pigment, a very light fast medium with watercolor, and also we dilute it most times. You nearly never use it as it is from the tube. So that's the reason we get a lot of more light to the pigment, because of the transparency, and of course because we water it down. And that sometimes makes a pigment which is maybe better or very good in light fastness in an oil color, not light fast in watercolor. So that is sometimes why things are labeled incorrectly in watercolor, and that is also a reason why it is, when you need to work with light fast pigments, then it is really important that you don't just take the rating from the brands, but really look it up if these pigments are in watercolor, light fast or not, because it could be a very bad surprise if you do a painting, sell it, and then have a very angry customer half year later when big parts of the painting are completely white. Yeah. So PR 177 is never light fast in watercolor. That's just something very important to know. Vermilion hue, PO73, that's also a not so good in light fastness. It's not a super bad, but more like a medium, so it does lighten up a bit. PR 254, that's I think it was a pyrrole red, and PY 110. Then I have from Supervision, that's their Primatech line, like the Primatech colors from Daniel Smith. That is Red Jade. You don't get a pigment number, it just says mineral. I know that in the Primatech line, they don't use only the gems or minerals in it. They do use other pigments, and there was this case that someone really tested it many years ago. A chemist and private person, not someone who was paid for doing it. And I know that the I think it was the Amazonite genuine, it's a green color, which contained mostly phthalo green and a little bit only of the Amazonite. And I also know that at least the fuchsite genuine has to be also substituted with some kind of color, because a genuine fuchsite, I do have a genuine fuchsite, which is 100% only fuchsite. It isn't turquoise as the Daniel Smith version. It is just nearly transparent with a slightly hint of green, and mostly it is just glitter. So they do definitely substitute other pigments, and probably Supervision does it as well, but it is a beautiful color still. But with that, you don't know how good the light fastness really is, because I know Supervision is not very reliable with their ratings, so I would always be careful with the brand. Then I have 3 colors from Renaissance. That is a Polish brand, which is super cheap and affordable here in Germany. I think they start from around €3 for a 15 milliliter tube, similar to Shinhan PwC. They also start with around €3, so that's very affordable. Scarlet Red, that is the PR 254. Yeah, very lighter, warm red, very beautiful, very light fast. I did buy these on a big sale in a shop in Germany, so I paid a lot, paid around €2 or so per tube. That's why I have a lot of them. It was really cheap. Then I have the Cadmium Red Deep, which is a PR 108, but in a darker version. Then I have the Cadmium Bordeaux, which is even darker. It's also, of course, a PR 108. That's the Cadmium Red pigment. Then I have 2 colors from Phoenix. I still need to do a comparison video from the Phoenix and the Cotman, because I think it was the Fugal crafter Lindsay who said that they could be Cotman paints, because the names and the pigments are completely identical, and the colors itself work very similarly. I can't say it so far because I didn't have, I only have bought 2 Cotman tubes, and I will haven't used them so far, so I will have to compare them. But I can say they are definitely not artist grade, that's for sure, but a very good student grade. And they are super, super cheap. Those are 8 milliliter tubes, and they go for around 1 to 2 euros, depending on are they on sale or not. I've bought them on sale for around, I think, €1.08 or so. So that's so super cheap. Yeah. From that case, if you don't have a lot of money, they are very, very affordable, and like Van Gogh, a very good student grade paints. And for a student grade paint, I can really recommend them. They have also a lot of very good pigments. Most of the colors are very light fast, so yeah, that's a good brand, good cheap brand if you are on a budget. This is Rose Madder Hue, and this is a color which probably will change the pigment soon, or already have changed it. I don't know, because probably the tube here is a little bit older. It has the pigment PR206 in it, in the red version, which is your quinacridone maroon. This pigment was discontinued 2022. So yeah, definitely that if you are lucky, you still get it, but probably they will switch the pigment sooner or later. So yeah, that's a little gem to have. Then I have also very, very light fast, sorry, the cadmium red deep hue. Hue always means that it is not the genuine pigment. Mostly in student grade, it is used for pigments which are very expensive, like cadmiums, because expensive pigments aren't used in student grade paints. Or it is used, like in the vermilion case, if the original pigment isn't used anymore because of toxicity, or maybe if it is a discontinued pigment, for example, then as well. So they use the PR254, that was the Pyro Red, and the PR188, if you remember, the very transparent red. Both are very light fast, so that's a very beautiful warm light red. Then I have Rosa Gallery. That's another brand. I think I can only recommend very, very highly. I think it doesn't get enough love, or isn't known enough, because the brand is super, super affordable and the quality is super, super good. They are cheaper as White Nights. They are produced in the Ukraine, and they are very, very good. For example, when you buy in Germany on Amazon 18 half-pan set of Winsor & Newton Cotman, you pay 45 euros. And if I buy I think 28 full pan set of Rosa Gallery, which is artist grade, not student grade like the Cotmans, I pay around 35, 38 euros. So I pay less for over double the amount of color in artist grade, just to have a comparison. Also, they tubes, as far as I know, they have a standard price, so it doesn't matter if it's a high-priced pigment like a cadmium or a cobalt. It still is around 3 euros for a 10 milliliter tube, which is super cheap, especially if you want more expensive pigments like cadmiums or cobalts, and they do have them. So we start with the cadmium red light PR108 PO20, that's a red cat orange mix. Then I have the Madder Red. This contains the PR177, not light fast, just to be remember that. PR264, that's a light fast pigment. These tube here, those are from a set. Since, I don't know, 2 years or so, there is a shop in Germany which sell individual tubes and pans. But prior to that, the only chances I had to get Rosa Gallery were the tube and pan sets on Amazon. So I have a lot of tube pan sets, and I have bought one tube set back then, and that tube is from that set. Those two, I think. These two are part of the newly released colors from last year, and I haven't tried them so far. Really have to do this. This is the Pyrrole Red, which looks very beautiful. It is a PR 254, but in a very dark red version, very light fast pigment. And then I have the Cadmium Red Deep, which is of course a PR 108. But this is a cadmium red version which granulates, at least from the pictures from Rosa Gallery itself, strongly, which is very unusual for a cadmium. And the only other cadmium red I know which granulates like crazy is the Volcano Red from Schminke. I want to do soon a comparison video with those two to take a look if this could be a good and more cheaper replacement for this one. I don't know how strongly it granulates. I haven't tested it so far, but that could be very interesting. There aren't a lot of granulating red colors which aren't your standard earth colors like red iron oxides. So yeah, that is awesome to have some. So then I have permanent alizarin crimson from Winsor & Newton, and the reason why I have two of them is those are different pigments. The original version was made with a PR 206, the discontinued quinacridone maroon. And back then in 2022, when I heard that the pigment was being discontinued, I've bought all the versions I could get my hand on it. And at that moment, the only version I knew for the red version, because the pigment makes a red and a brown color, a reddish brown, but it looks very different to this dark red, was the Winsor & Newton one. So I ordered a big tube of it because I thought it is the only source I know for the red. I take the big 37 milliliter tube. It will really go a long way for me. But it seemed that Winsor & Newton already switched the pigment because they don't seem to have any stock. It is a PR 179, which is a perylene maroon. It looks from the red super similar. I can do a video when you let me know if you're interested in it, compare those two. Yeah, so sadly I only had gotten my hand on this one, but then I had around 2 years later, I think it was, very much I had a lot of luck in a local art store when I was around 2-3 hours away from home. They had one tube left from the PR 206 version, so of course I bought it. That's the reason why I have two times the permanent alizarin crimson. So then Sennelier Artist Grade, the L'Aquarelle. I have the Sennelier Red. This is from a set, I think it was 10 colors set. That's a PR 255 again, the Pyrrole Red, very light, fast, beautiful red. And then I have the Cadmium Red Purple. Of course, it's the PR 108. Like I said, it can make really dark purplish like reds, this pigment. You can go from the fire engine red to nearly purple red. And I really, really like dark purplish-like reds a lot. That's also why you will see in my earth color collection a lot of Caput Mortem styled colors, because that's something I really, really like. Then I have 3 colors of core. I have the quinacridone red light, which is the PR207. As far as I know, this color is, I think, being discontinued from core because their pigment supplier doesn't offer the PR207 anymore. The pigment itself is not discontinued. You can still buy it from other brands, but you can't buy it anymore from core. So yeah, we'll have to use it rarely from that one. Yeah, sad, because I really like Quin Reds, but like I said, you can still get it from other brands. Schminke Horadam, for example, offers the PR207. Then I have the quinacridone crimson, which is just a mixture between Quin Pink, PR122, and PR206, quinacridone maroon, the pigment that is being discontinued. That is just a tube I've bought when I heard that the pigment is being discontinued, and then I took a look at all the brands which are offering the single pigment and which offer it in some kind of mixture, and I bought the ones which I thought looked beautiful. But of course, this is something you could easily mix yourself if you have the PR206 and the PR122. The only thing I don't know is which version of the PR206 they've used, but I guess that it is a crimson color. They probably used the reddish version. So if you have the permanent alizarin crimson, the PR179 Parylene maroon version from Winsor Newton, for example, you should also be able to mix something like that, because like I said, the new version is super, super similar. Then I have the Pyrrole Red Deep PR264, very good in light fastness, the pigment. Very beautiful dark red color. I said it, I think, before, but dark reds are something that are not so often. So when you are looking at all the red pigments, the very dark ones only make a very small part of all the red pigments. And if you are looking at the dark reds, a lot of them are not light fast. So to get very dark, light fast pigments, there is only a small collection of it. So yeah, I try to get a lot of the darker ones because I love dark reds. So Mijello Mission Gold, those are from the set again I've bought many years ago. This is their Vermilion PR112, PO73. The PO73 is a pigment which is oftentimes not so good in light fastness, not completely bad, but not very good either. So I probably would only go for a 3 to 4 star rating, not a 5. To be honest. Then I have the permanent red, which is a PR112. And this is a tube I've bought when I bought the dot card from Mijello, and that red was something I really, really thought was very beautiful. This is a mixed color, so you could easily mix this autumn red yourself. It is a mixture between Y150, Nickel Azo Yellow, and PR254, the Pyro Red we have seen already in so many other colors. But it is a stunningly beautiful color, that's why I bought it. And I know that the Magello Mission Golds in some countries are not very cheap, but here in Germany they are super affordable. So yeah, if it would be a brand which is super expensive here, then I wouldn't have bought the tube, because like I said, you can easily mix it yourself, but I'm a little mixing lazy, so that's the reason why I personally say, if I have the opportunity to buy it very cheap, then I prefer that. So then we are looking at my collection of Daniel Smith watercolors. Sadly, they are very expensive in Germany, because I really love Daniel Smith watercolors. They're always super highly pigmented. So I have the Perylene Red, which is PR 178. That's one of my first colors. That's why it's completely empty down here. Really like this one a lot. Then I have the Deep Scarlet, which is a PR 175. I'm honestly not that sure. I haven't used that one so much, to be honest. So then I have the Alizarin Crimson and the Permanent Alizarin Crimson. The Alizarin Crimson, sorry about the alarm. The Alizarin Crimson is the genuine one, the PR83, which is not light fast, but I absolutely love it, especially the Daniel Smith version. That's why I use it a lot. But of course, never in artwork where light fastness is important. After I learned that this color is not light fast, I thought, okay, they have a permanent version, let's buy the permanent version. Haven't had any clue about pigments at that time, and I can't recommend the permanent version, because the permanent version is not light fast at all. So their light fastness is the same. Because this one is mainly made with a PR 177 again. That's a not light fast pigment in watercolor. The PV19 and PR 149 are in it as well, but like I said, the main part is the PR 177. It's not light fast, it will be vanishing completely over time. So my personal opinion is the best dupe is the Winsor Newton one, the Permanent Alizarin Crimson from Winsor Newton. So if you need a light fast Alizarin Crimson dupe, I would always go for the Winsor Newton one. Doesn't matter if it's the Quinacridone or the Perylene Maroon. They are both super similar in their color. So then I have the Quinacridone Coral. It's a PR 209. The Daniel Smith one was my first and is also one of my absolute favorite versions of this pigment. That's also the reason why I use it a lot, and I can highly recommend it if you like that kind of red. Then you can, at least the last time I checked, still buy these from Daniel Smith or from Roman Schmal. It's Anthraquinoid or Quinoid Scarlet, don't know how to pronounce it correctly. This is a color that is, or a pigment, PR 168, which is stunningly beautiful and was discontinued a few years ago. So only why their stock is lasting. So if it is a color which you are interested in, then you should buy it before the stock is completely gone. Like I said, Roman Schmal and Daniel Smith have this pigment. So, and then my last red tubes are from Schminke. We have the Bordeaux, which is only medium in light fastness, PR 187 again. Very beautiful color, but yeah, light fastness is not so perfect. Then we have the Volcano Red, and I mentioned that already in the yellow video, which I will link in the description box below if you haven't seen it already, where I show all my red, yellow, white and orange tubes. The Volcano Yellow and the Volcano Red are the ones I highly recommend if you are into granulation and mixing your own super granulating colors, because those are the only tubes made with a single pigment. This is cadmium red PR108, but that is the most granulating cadmium red I have ever seen. Like I said, I will have to compare it with the Rosa Gallery one, but I still think that this granulates a lot more than the one from Rosa Gallery. So then we have the last three. The first is Vermilion, or Zinnoberrot. That's the vermilion name in German. And this is a PR 255. I think I already mentioned that this is this, or the cadmium red, is the one used most for vermilion hues. Like I said, you don't get the original anymore. And then I have the quinacridone red light, which is the PR 207, like the one from Core, which is being discontinued. That's the one you can still get at quinacridone red light from Schminke. And then I have the Vermilion Light, which is the same pigment, the PR 188, like the Scarlet Lake from Winsor Newton, which is also very similar looking than the quinacridone red, but this pigment is a little bit lighter than the quinacridone red pigment. So that were all the reds. Then we will continue with the pink pigments for the rest of the video. Okay, so let's continue with my pink tubes. As we are starting here as well with the first to use, but the non-light fast ones. And the first one here is Bright Opera from Mijello Mission Gold. Colors like that are something you find in nearly all the watercolor brands. It's either Bright Opera, Opera Rose, Opera Pink, Brilliant Opera, or Brilliant Pink, or Bright Pink, or what else, something like that. And this is always a pink pigment. Most times it is a PR 122 quinacridone pink, in combination with some kind of fluorescent additive. In most cases, it is BV10 rhodamine. This is a fluorescent one, which is normally more used in science, like for example to color in the ELISA gene tests, or for microscopy, mass microscopy things, something like that. But it is also sometimes used as a fluorescent dye or additive in watercolor. And the problem with this is that normally a PR 122 is a very light fast pigment, but because of the BV10 rhodamine or other fluorescent medias which are used in those kind of watercolor, the original pigment also gets not light fast. So all these colors with Bright, Opera, Brilliant, or what else are normally the least light fast you can get. So those are colors which will vanish completely when exposed to light. So I know that a lot of botanical artists love colors like that, those glowing pinks for flowers, but as long as you are only selling digital prints, that is okay. But if you are selling originals, I wouldn't recommend using colors like that, because when your customer will hangs his artwork on his wall, even if it's a wall which basically gets no direct light at all, then in around a half a year, most of the pink will be vanished. So yeah, can only recommend not to use it here. It is, like I said, a PR 122 and the BV10, also known as rhodamine. Then I also have Rose Madder Genuine, and this is the genuine rose madder is something you barely see anymore in watercolor. Most times we have hues. So Winsor & Newton Professional is one of the very few brands still offering the original version, which is NR9. So you sadly can't see it very well because of the tube squeezer I've used NR9. N is always used for natural pigments, which are either plant-based, like the rose madder, which is from root, from a special root made, or if it's animal-based, like for example in genuine sepia. The color itself is stunningly beautiful, a very, very nice rose pink color, but it is super fugitive. So also, same as this, it will vanish completely over time if your drawing is exposed to light. The little specialty in this year from Winsor & Newton Professional is it really smells good, because they add bergamot oil. Bergamot is a citrus fruit, so it smells a little bit citrusy, fresh, very, very nice. But the smell only works with the fresh paint. If you are squeezing it into a set and re-wet it months or years later, you won't smell it anymore. At least I don't. I have it in a palette. Okay, so then to my more light fast first use up colors. The first is from Renaissance, the Potter's Pink. It is a beautiful version. It is a very, very light rose pink color, much lighter, much more pinky than other brands. The pigment is PR 233, zinc chrome silicate. So that's the original Potter's Pink pigment. The reason why I use this version up first, even if it isn't my first Potter's Pink I have owned, is that it isn't very good as a mixing Potter's Pink, because it is so light in color. Normally Potter's Pinks are more a darker, earthy kind of pink, and this is a very, very light one. I don't know if, oh no, the tube is, and it nearly didn't get it off up the last time I needed some more color. So yeah, won't work now. But yeah, like I said, it is a very light version, so it's not very good for mixing this one, because it is very easily overpowered with other pigments. So that's the reason why I try to use it up. With Potter's Pink is one of 3 pigments which are very hard to re-wet when dried. Potter's Pink, Cobalt Violet, and Genuine Viridian. You can either use a company or brand which already has some honey in it, like Roman Schmal or Mgram, for example, or you also can, of course, buy any other brand. I personally don't do anything special with my colors. I just re-wet it with a few drops of water a few minutes before I use it. Just wait a moment and then it works fine. But if you don't want to wait, you can, if you squeeze it in a pan or in your palette, add a little bit of honey, mix it well, and if you're vegan, then just use some glycerin. That works as well. Both are rewetting agents and helps especially with lazy pigments like this one. Very good. So yeah, that is just a little tip from myself. Okay, then we have the Quinacridone Permanent Rose from Magello Mission Gold. That's also one from the set I've bought years ago. That's just a basic PV19, so nothing special. Just use this version up first because it's a very small tube and it is easily used up. I have a lot of PV19s, as you will see. Then I have an ultramarine pink, even if it's more tending to a violetish kind of color. I have it in the pinks because of the pink, but if you are interested in how this look and the other version of ultramarine pink we will be seeing later, I will put a link to in the description box below for my ultramarine pink video. This is from Mgram and it's a PV15, which is more used as a ultramarine violet, and the ultramarine pink, I think it is PR 259 if I'm not mistaken. That when you are burning a PV29 longer, then you get a PV15, and if you burn PV15 longer, then you get the ultramarine pink pigment, the PR 259 if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I explain everything on the ultramarine color family videos. Like I said, I will put a link in the description box. Then I have the shell pink from Holbein, and as you can see, even the tube is super old, but I barely touched it because I realized with this and other colors that I not really enjoy pastel colors a lot. I don't use a lot of pastel colors. This is a very pastel kind of pink, and the funny thing is it's an orange and white pigment. It has 2 of 3 stars because of the PO73, which is not so super good in light fastness, more mediocre, and a PW6. The funny thing is here we have an orange and we have a white. Normally you would say it would get some kind of pastel orange and not a pink, but the PO73, there is a red and an orange version of the pigment, and the red version was something some watercolor brands offered in the past, but because the pigment isn't produced anymore, as far as I know, in the red version, most companies discontinued those versions, and I don't know if Holbein has a big supply of this more reddish version, or how they get to this, because I can't imagine that you get the same result with the orange version. I have the orange as a watercolor from Daniel Smith, and it can't imagine that it works to create a color like this with only white added to it. So I guess it probably is the more reddish version. Okay, so these are my first to use up pinks, and then I have here this Settler Game Platin Edition box, a super old box, but yeah, these are all my pink watercolors. And like always, I will sort them, and then I will be back in a second. So here I'm back with a little bit more sorted. I have Winsor Newton Cotman and Professional. I have Shinhan PWC, Sennelier, Renaissance, Intense, Wet Nights, Magello Mission Gold, Old Holland, Lucas, Rembrandt, Daniel Smith, Core, Michael Harding, and Schminke. But before we come to this, there's one more tube I had in my first use up pile, and it was emptied like that. But don't throw tubes like that away. There's still a lot of pigment in it, and you can color a lot with it. I will do a dedicated separate video to how to open your tube best and get best all the rest out of it. But I wanted to show you, I have cut the Core quinacridone magenta tube open. I kept it here, so you can see there's still a lot of color on it. If you re-wet your brush, you can still use the color which is here. Same goes for this. And I emptied the remaining color in this palette here. Those are all from emptied tube like that. So I would guess the ones which are filled up more from the remaining milliliters, maybe around 1/8 to a quarter pan of color. So it is a lot which will stay in the tube. So that's the reason why I can only recommend don't throw away. Use a tube squeezer to get as much out of as possible, and the rest you can put in a half pan, in a full pan, in a palette like that. It doesn't matter. But like I said, I will do a separate video for that so that you can see how it is easiest to open and the best way to get all the color out of it. Okay, so then we come to the tubes. The first here is the Winsor Newton Cotman Permanent Rose. It's just a basic PV19. I mentioned that in the yellow video. If you haven't seen it, I will also put a link in the description box below, where I have shown all the yellow, white and orange watercolor tubes I have. And I have bought yellow and this permanent rose to try out the Cotman colors in tubes, because I heard that they are very different to the pans. I don't like the pans because they are so dry and you have to scrub so much. But someone mentioned that tubes are very different, so that's the reason why I've bought it. Also, I want to compare these with the Phoenix watercolor tubes. And I just haven't used it so far, so it is untouched. Haven't had the time. So then Shinhan PWC, again, Korean brand. I mentioned that earlier. I have 4 tubes, and those are also pretty old, way before I started learning about pigments and light fastness. That's the reason why I have 2. Basically opera rose kind of versions. We have the first is opera and the other is bright rose, both rated with 1 star, which is definitely correct. So we have a BR1 and a BR12 in it. I have absolutely no clue if that are dyes or if that are fluorescent dyes or what else. So if you have a clue about these numbers, please let me know. Like I said, I barely use colors like that, and yeah, that's the reason why they're still very full. Have only squeezed them out once, and yeah, basically they are more or less untouched. Same Brilliant Pink. The Shinhan PWC line is nearly a complete dupe of the Holbein line. The Holbein tubes cost, at least here in Germany, starting with around €6, and these are starting with €3, so they are way cheaper. The pigments are most times nearly identical or identical, and in both lines you will find the shell pink and the brilliant pink, as I ordered years back when I ordered all these Shinhan tubes. The shell pink from Shinhan wasn't available, that's why I bought the Holbein one. So the brilliant pink has 2 stars and it is a PR209, so it's a quinacridone red and a PW6 white. I don't know why the 2 stars and not the 3, at least the quinacridone red is super light fast. Maybe the PW6 is not as light fast as I think it is, but I'm not so good with white pigments because I normally don't use whites, so yeah. The only white I like to use is a white gouache for highlights or something, or white gel pen or something like that normally. Then I have the permanent rose, which they also rated with only 2 stars, which is very surprising because it's a PV19, and PV19 normally is a super light fast pigment, so I'm a little bit confused about the rating. But in my experience, cheaper brands like Shinhan PWC often rate their colors not correctly. There are often colors in it which are rated completely wrong. So, most times it is rated correct, not correct in the department that they're rated too high and they are less light fast, but sometimes we also have ratings like that, which is a little bit confusing. But yeah, that's something I often see. So it is, when you are working with brands like that, always good if you at least know a little bit of pigments and light fastness, if you need the colors to be light fast. That said, if you are just working in a sketchbook or something like that where light fastness doesn't matter, it is not so important, of course. Then I have one color, Opera Rose from Sennelier, La Aquarelle. This is their artist grade range. This came in a small set with 10 tubes. I've bought it because I got it on sale and I hadn't had any Sennelier watercolors, and those are still my only, I think, watercolors from Sennelier I have, without the exception of the cadmium purple. That was one I've bought myself and was not included in the set. But yeah, I wouldn't have bought this otherwise. We have PR81 column 1 and a fluorescent. The PR81 is on its own not light fast, and then we have a fluorescent which makes this even more not light fast. So yeah, beautiful color, but one I rarely use. Haven't touched it. It's completely unopened so far. Then just put them aside. I think that's better. Sorry. We are coming to the Renaissance intense watercolors, and I have basically just a quinacridone rose and a quinacridone pink. They call it quinacridone red, don't know why, and purple magenta. This is a PV19 and this is a PR122, both very light fast primary reds. And you will see a lot of those are versions of a PV19 or quinacridone pink, because I like to use one or the other. I rarely have both in a palette, but some people do like more the quin rose and some like more the quin pink. I don't have any favorites. I like them both. And that's why sometimes I like to use the pink or the rose more, and that's why I have both. Then I have here the Carmine from White Nights. This is a newer tube, and that's the reason why it is a PV19. They have a printing error calling it PR19, but it's a PV19. And I have a very old pen set where I have a Carmine in it, and it is a PR 170 column 1, which is a very non-light fast pigment, and they've changed it to the PV19, which is the much better deal because this is a very light fast pigment. So definitely a good change here from White Nights. So if you're buying a new set with tubes or pens, doesn't matter, you will get the PV19 version. But if, of course, that's very important to know, maybe the shop has the set for a very long time in their shelves, then you could also still get, if you're unlucky, the PR 171. So if you're buying a set including the Carmine, I would recommend checking out which pigment is used in it, so you know if you have a newer or an older set, and if your magenta in the set is light fast or not. Then we have Quinacridone Crimson Lake from Jello Mission Gold, it's also from the set I've bought, and it's a PR202, which is also a quinacridone pigment. As far as I know, a very light fast one, or yeah, should be a very light fast one as well. Beautiful color. The PR202 is not so widely spread, so you don't have a lot of companies offering a color with it, so that's quite nice. I think that's the only PR202 I have in my pinks. Then I have the other ultramarine red pink, which this is a more pinkish version, I think, when I remember correctly. Like I said, I will put a link in the description box below. And there I already also mentioned that the labeling from Old Holland is very confusing. I didn't find any additional information on their website. It just says contains synthetic ultramarine quinacridone. What does this mean? Because ultramarine and quinacridones are two completely different pigment families. So what is in it? I have absolutely no clue at all. It is a beautiful color. It does granulate. So I guess that at least a part of it should be an ultramarine pigment, because quinacridones don't granulate. But yeah, don't know. I only have this and another tube of Old Holland, which is a brown color. And the reason why I don't have more is they are super expensive. And I know there are bigger tubes, but you can't get them in Germany. You can only get these very small ones, and they are super, super expensive. The pen sets also. I think I looked it up once, and it was around 300 euros for a 24 half pen set or so. That's just ridiculous. So that's the reason why I don't have a lot of colors from the company. The brand itself is very good. They are good colors, but it's just too expensive. Don't get it, because the Netherlands are our neighboring country. It is much cheaper to import these colors than, for example, to ship Daniel Smith watercolors overseas, but I nearly pay the same price for those. So it isn't worth it to pay so much. I only bought it for the video, to be honest. I mean, I will use it. It won't go to waste, but yeah, I wouldn't rebuy it, probably not for that price. Maybe if I go for a weekend or so to the Netherlands, and maybe there the colors are cheaper, but yeah. Then I have two colors from Lucas. This is also a German brand. The 1862 line is their artist grade range. That's the founding year of the company. So you can see it is a very old company. with a lot of experience. They have these chubby styled tubes, which are very, very cute, I think, and they are very, very affordable, at least here in Germany. I don't know, of course, how it is in other areas of the world, but in comparison to other brands like Schminke Horadam or Core and Winsor Newton Professional or Daniel Smith, they are much, much cheaper, and you get a lot of color, more color than in those brands. What, in my personal experience, some colors of the Lucas brands, the same goes for Rembrandt, are lighter in color, or at least they don't get as dark as some of those from those brands. It is not with every color, but especially with the Lucas one, I have a lot of colors which are lighter in color and don't get as dark. Those are very, very highly pigmented brands, and in some colors you nearly get the color so dark it looks like it is black, and that is something you won't as easily get with those brands. But like I said, they are still very good, and to be honest, most times you are watering the colors down to a lighter tone, so most times you won't use it in mass tone. So yeah, I think that is acceptable, especially for the much cheaper price. This is Genuine Rose, and this is Magenta Primary, 3-star in light fastness, which is, I think, their highest rating. That's a PV19 and that's a PR 122. I'm not quite sure why this one only gets 2 stars, because other brands normally also label that one as best in light fastness, and that's also what I find in pigment databases. So yeah, not quite sure, but nice colors and very, very affordable, like I said. Then I have the same from Rembrandt. It's a PV19 Quinacridone Rose Reddish with the best light fastness rating. And we have a Quinacridone Rose Magenta, which is the PR 122. These are also labeled as only 2 of 3, which is interesting. Yeah, like I said, Rembrandt is a very, very good brand, and in Germany here it is also super affordable. I think, which is very interesting, is that the pan sets from Rembrandt aren't very cheap, at least here. I don't know where how it is in other areas of the world, but the tubes are very cheap in comparison to other brands. So I get them around €9, I think, for 20 milliliters, which is more color than I have in a Schminke, because they are 15 milliliters, and they start also in Germany from around €9 for Series 1, which Potter's Pink isn't, but just so as a comparison, so I have 5 ml more for the same price. I know overseas prices from European brands get more expensive. Same goes for US brands in Germany, of course. So yeah, just your basic primary magentas. So then we are going to the Schminke ones. I have the Rose Madder, which is not very good in light fastness because it contains alizarin crimson. That's, as far as I know it, that the PR 83, here it's column 1, is the synthetic version of the genuine, the NR9. But a viewer asked me to do a dedicated video about alizarin crimson and Rose Madder, and I will do it after the Manganese series. I know I have a little bit abandoned it, And I'm really sorry for that. The first main reason is that I was very sick the last 2 months. My health situation is not very good, and I had a lot of bed rest in the last 2 months, so I couldn't do a lot of things. The second problem was that I did research about manganese browns for days, and the paper I wrote it down vanished. So I have to start completely from scratch again, which was very, very frustrating when you have only a very limited time where you're feeling well enough to do so. So yeah, that was the reason I was very frustrated about it. I searched everywhere and I just couldn't find it. So I have already started again, but it will need a little bit time to research everything once over. So when I've done that, then I will continue. We will do the manganese browns and then a video about the blacks, and then I will definitely do look up in the alizarin and rose madder pigments. And here also is the PR 48 column 4 in it. Those are both not light fast pigments, so this is sadly not a light fast color, which also is very old. I wouldn't buy it anymore, to be honest. Then I have the ruby red, which is basically just a PV19, beautiful color. Can't say anything about it. Then I have the Potter's Pink PR 233 from Schminke. I have a lot of Potter's Pink versions because I really started to love this when I got more and more into granulation. So yeah, that's why I have a lot of Potter's Pinks. Then, and that was something what was also a little bit problematic when I done the ultramarine pink video. That was the reason why I had to wait for that for a while, because my box with my pinks vanished and I couldn't find it for months, and I just couldn't buy everything again. It is just so much money, and I've collected all this stuff over many years. I know it does seem to look that I have tons of money, but I'm working with watercolor since 29 years and I've collected them for a very long time. So yeah, that's the reason. I definitely don't have the money to replace it and things like that, especially not because this is the Yintico red from Schminke and this was a limited edition. I know that some shops in Germany still sold them last year. Don't know if it's still available. But when I bought it, it was 17 euros. Last year they sold it for around 20 euros. So it definitely did go up in the price a lot. And yeah, it is a very expensive color. This is from the same family as the Yinmin blue. That's the Yintico red. There is also a green which no commercial brand offers at the moment, which is called, I think, Yaltico green. Yeah, and that is a very beautiful granulating pink and a strongly pinkish pink. So that's different to our Potter's Pink, which more of a earthy pink, and this is more tending towards magenta. And this is a very rare thing that you have a pink like that which granulates. That's the reason why I absolutely had to get it. But I barely use it because it's so expensive, so I'm super careful when I'm using it. So then we are coming to Winsor Newton Professional. I have a Potter's Pink from them as well. Winsor Newton Professional was the first brand offering Potter's Pink in watercolor, so they were the one which done the first watercolor with it. It is called Potter's Pink because it was mainly used in pottery as a color glazing pigment. So thank you very much, Winsor Newton, to get this pigment for us in watercolor, because it's really, really beautiful. Then I have a permanent rose, which is your basic PV19. And then if you have seen my carmine video, I will put also a link in the description box. If you haven't, I have mentioned that this here, the permanent carmine from Winsor Newton, was the closest to the original genuine carmine, but in a light fast version. And I've tried to look up the pigment quinacridone pyrrolidone, and I couldn't find any number or any additional information about it, so I had no clue which pigment is behind this name. And some viewer told me sadly that this pigment isn't used anymore in this color, and also I couldn't find any information why. But a few weeks ago I've read somewhere that quinacridone pyrrolidone is PR206, which is also known as quinacridone maroon, which I've mentioned in the reds. That is a pigment which was discontinued 2022, so that would be the reason why they had to change here the pigment as well. But that could also mean, I will do a separate video about it, that is something that came up when I did the video here, that we can take a look at if you can get the same shade of red from the permanent alizarin crimson version of the PR206, or the newer one with the PR179 as you have in this one. Because if it's the same pigment, the PR206, which is a darker version in the alizarin crimson, maybe the permanent alizarin crimson, maybe you can water it down to the same color, which would be a nice replacement for the best dupe of a genuine carmine. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Then I have one color from Michael Harding. I like the Michael Harding watercolors. They are super pigmented, very beautiful, but sadly, at least here in Germany, super expensive, so I don't have a lot of them. I have the Potter's Pink, very beautiful one. Then I have two colors from Core. I have the quinacridone red, which is the PV19. I thought I have three, or maybe I have lost it somewhere. Yeah, don't know. No, the other way with the reds, I think. So that's just a PV19. And then I have the ultramarine pink. Again, I linked the ultramarine pink video in the description box, and you can see how it looks. You can still get this in Germany, at least around 1 or 2 weeks ago. The color was discontinued from Core because their pigment supplier don't offer this special shade anymore. It's a PV15, which is very, very beautiful, very unique shade of the pigment. And this is also one of the gems I have, which couldn't easily be replaced, because at the time I was missing the box. I didn't know if or how long you still will be able to get it. I know, like I said, in Germany you can still get it. I don't know how it is overseas. Core had released earlier this year. I have a separate video about this, a lot of new colors. I can put a link in the description box as well to that video. And they have an ultramarine pink deep, which is also stunningly beautiful and very unique in its shade, but completely different than this one, probably as a replacement for that color. So yeah, that's definitely a little gem. Then my last four are an opera pink again. This was one I bought not in a set, but this was way before I knew that those colors aren't light fast. It's a PR 122 and a fluorescent again. Was my first opera pink as well. I have the Potter's pink, which was my first. That's the reason why at the bottom it's already a big pile used. Very, very beautiful version from Daniel Smith. And then I have the Quinacridone Rose. It's a PV19. As you can see, it is not used so far. And I've bought this after I heard that the PV42 Quinacridone Pink, which Daniel Smith uses, is not so good in light fastness, which is sad because the color is very good. Very, very beautiful. They rate it with 2, which is still a good, which would be an okay. I haven't looked it up how good it holds itself, this special version, because some Daniel Smith colors do better than the same pigments from other brands. But the PR or PV42 isn't a pigment which is super good in light fastness. So that's more a mediocre, not a super bad pigment, but more a mediocre one. Yeah, that's the reason why I've bought a Quin Rose. So that were all my reds and pinks. I hope it was interesting and helpful. As always, a thumbs up or a follow is very, very much appreciated because it really helps me and the channel. Yeah, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope you will jump in another video soon, and please let me know what are your favorite reds and pinks, what colors you don't like in the red and pink line, and are there some after this video where you say, oh, those sounds very interesting, I will look that up and probably or maybe buy it in the future. Yeah, please let me know, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. See you soon. Bye bye.